Okay, I am going to call the meeting to order. Can we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I put on the agenda a moment of silence regarding the terrorist attacks and the lives lost in Israel. I sent out a newsletter on Thursday evening. It was mostly going to be the beginning of my Friday newsletter. I've been working on it since on Saturday, but then the chief had called me. The FBI had reached out to all the area chiefs and they had a mandatory meeting and there was a safety alert that I felt compelled to send out. I figured I would send it out. I had talked to the rabbis, the area rabbis, and had asked them during the week to include any thoughts they want to share with our community, which I was very grateful that they did. And I sent that out on Thursday, but I know that you wanted to have some time to share your thoughts as well.
Thank you. I'm going to go up there just so they can
Sure.
see me there. So I was driving in, I saw the sign for George Markley. And he was a proud Jew in Fairfield. And he always used to thank me every time I would make a political speech and I'd reference my Judaism. And on the eve of my this last month in office, I've been thinking about what I might say that would do something, that would say something that would honor people like George. So thank you for this privilege. Tikkun Olam is Hebrew for repair of the world. This Judaic principle is at the heart of why I ran for political office 7 years ago, and it has guided me throughout my tenure. Serving as an elected official and attempting to contribute to the well-being of this community was an antidote to the injustices and inequities in a world I perceived in desperate need of repair and healing. And now, on the eve of my departure from this office, it's me and the Jewish community here in Fairfield and elsewhere in need of healing. From this platform, around that table, I've often stressed the importance of words and actions. I hope my words today, they're mine, accurately reflect what I've been feeling this past week, what it means to be a Jew in this context of this brutal massacre, and how your words and your actions can help heal a world so desperate for repair. I'd like to thank you, Brenda, our first Selectwoman, for her support of the Jewish community and condemnation of attacks on Israel by Hamas terrorists. I urge every elected official in Fairfield to follow suit. Thank you too to the Fairfield Police Department, led by Police Chief Calamaris, for taking threats, both last week and ongoing, and in the past, for taking threats to the Jewish community seriously. And a special heartfelt thank you to Rabbi Evan Schultz of Congregation B'nai Israel and Brother Khalid from the Bridgeport Islamic Community Center for their joint statement of solidarity and peace. In absence of knowing the right words to say or frankly what to do, I spent much of last week at home, silent and alone, absorbing news and information. I came across words and phrases like Israel is an apartheid state and description of Israelis as colonizers and oppressors. I heard people declare that Israelis deserved this violence. These words were juxtaposed with horrifying images of beheaded babies, teenagers that look woefully like my own killed while dancing at a concert, tortured Holocaust survivors, and sexually brutalized grandmothers. There is no rationale for this brutality and this barbarism, and any hesitancy by anyone to name it as such reflects a world in need of repair. Your actions and your words, they can and they will make a difference. Expressing solidarity with the Jewish community and mourning the victims of this brutal massacre will help with our collective healing. By condemning this terrorism and acknowledging our pain and fear, you signal to your Jewish friends and family that you stand against further violence perpetrated against us. With rising global anti-Semitism and anti-Semitism here in Fairfield, I'm afraid to say, this is crucial to making us feel safe and protected. Neutral statements or silence in the face of this terrorism is its own kind of violence against the Jewish people, and this too hinders our ability to participate in Tikkun Olam. Last week's attack by Hamas terrorists, the deadliest against Jews since the Holocaust, was not an act of liberation for Palestine. It was an act of annihilation against the Jewish people. With 16 million Jews worldwide, representing a mere 0.2% of the world's population, the impact of the massacre in Israel ripples through our interconnected community. Your Jewish friends and your neighbors here in Fairfield know someone or knows someone who has been brutally beaten or taken hostage or tragically murdered, and we are hurting and we are scared. Israel, like it did after the Holocaust, offers a refuge where Jewish culture, religion, and traditions are preserved. It's a platform for Jewish identity. Saying the words, "I stand with Israel," do not betray a commitment to the welfare of the Palestinian people, but rather they condemn terrorism and they reaffirm the right of the Jewish people, dare I say, me and my family, your friends here, they affirm the right of the Jewish people to exist. I acknowledge Palestinian suffering and the aspirations of Palestinians, and I support justice and freedom for both Israelis and Palestinians. This is not a war of aggression between Israel and Palestine, but a fight against Hamas terrorists whose sole purpose is the destruction of Israel and the extermination of all Jews everywhere. Your words, your actions, they matter. Check in on your Jewish friends here. Speak up against anti-Semitism in its myriad forms. As representatives of your collective community, demand civility from your chosen leaders. This time of despair and anguish for Israel and the Jewish people coincides with an election cycle here in Fairfield. Engaging in our democratic process, as I have these 7 years, it can be messy and sometimes ugly. It is a vital ideal to fight for. Democracies both here and abroad protect individual rights and freedoms and promote fair, equitable societies. However, this only works when we elect leaders who share these ideals and when eligible residents vote and participate in the process. You can be sure that what happens here impacts people everywhere. We want to. I am because we are. And while after next month, I will no longer be your selectman, I will continue to be guided by the principles of Tikkun Olam. I will continue to pursue a path locally for justice and equity for all, and I will confront those who oppose it. Injustice anywhere is indeed injustice everywhere. In the words of Rabbi Hillel, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? If not now, the time for action is now. Israel, hi, Israel lives. And I thank you and I thank all of the residents of Fairfield for the distinct privilege of having served you for these past 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, Brenda, or Madam First Selectwoman, if I might.
Thank you for saying what you did. Appreciate it.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, first of all, very nice words, Nancy, and my thoughts and the thoughts of my family are with you and our Jewish community here in Fairfield and around the world. I completely condemn the terrorist attacks that happened on Israel last week. They were barbaric, horrific, in no way can be justified. And they were an example, once again, that there is unfortunately true evil in the world. Twice in my life, like many of our citizens in Fairfield, I was confronted directly with terrorism. I lost 35 classmates from Syracuse University on Pan Am 103. And I was in New York on 9/11 and lost several friends down at the World Trade Center. The attack on Israel reminded me of an expression as it relates to our own country, that we are just one generation from losing our way of life if we don't remain vigilant, protect what we stand for, stand in solidarity with our friends, nations, and people, and protect the values that we hold dear. So in this instance, unfortunately, we stand with Israel as they go through what they're dealing with. And I think my colleague Nancy said it very well. And this is in no way against the entirety of the Palestinian people. It is against the terrorists that have overtaken what should be a peaceful process and turned it horrific. So my family and I's thoughts, prayers, and best wishes are with our Israeli friends and families. Thank you.
Tom? Thank you, Tom. Item number 4. Except for information purposes only, for the board in the community that Mary Tomei Streeto resigned the position on the Bike and Ped Committee. Item number 5, can I have a motion to consider and accept on the minutes of September 11th, 2023?
So moved.
Seconded.
Is there any discussion on this item? Not any from the public? Back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried, thank you. Our next item is item number 6. We have Angelus, Papa George, and Sal Morbido. Can I get a motion to hear and consider and approve changes to the May 1st, 2023 approved charge for AC building?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. Okay.
And everyone, just to clarify, this is a change to the building committee charge so that we can include other projects associated with the projects that are currently on the committee. We're asking that the North Stratfield roof be added to their charge. North Stratfield roof, the Fitz House replacement unit, Osborne Hill, Stratfield, and Fairfield Woods vestibules be added to the project. In addition to that, one change that is not in your write-up today that we would also ask for is the removal of the word grant from the title so that we're not locked into the grant applications.
What do you, first of all, the sound is a little bad when you move around. I lose you on the microphone, so if you could stay close to the microphone, please. And if you could talk about that grant one more time, please.
So in the building committee's recommendation for a name change, they put the word grant in there. We're asking that the word grant be removed from the title in your backup so that we can also use them as we move forward with reimbursement projects, such as the vestibules through the state Oscar program.
So it's a
So I'm sorry, in the backup, you're asking for this copy as opposed to this?
No, we're asking.
For the red?
The red is correct. We're just asking for the removal of the word grant from
In the title.
Out or just the title?
The title, in the title. Of the building. all references to the building committee's name within the body of the text.
We have to make a motion to,
The word.
alright, so
Can you just tell me, is it because,
It's the building committee's feeling, there's a feeling that it inappropriately reflects the duties of the.
okay, got it. So it appears in more places than,
It appears in the first line,
There's
the
quite a
third
few.
line,
it's like 3 times in the second paragraph,
correct.
twice in the, or 3 times in the first red paragraph.
Correct. That should be it.
Not 4 times in the second paragraph, 5 times.
What's the concern? I don't understand it.
It locks them into the grant application process and the grant that we received for the indoor air quality. And some of these projects are not, like, such as the vestibules, will be applying for the state reimbursement through that program, and it's not grant. There was a concern that it was locking them into grant only, so.
So why don't we add just grant and other reimbursements? Add the word as opposed to lose the word.
no, I understand getting rid of it, but what about this last sentence in the second paragraph where it says, is authorized to file for grant application? Do you wanna keep that? Right?
They're just feeling that the title, putting the word grant in the title does not properly reflect the diversity of what they're gonna have to do. There may be other
So
Oscar projects that might be into it, such as the vestibule and the roof.
right, so to streamline this, it would be the grants in the title.
Yep.
It would be the grants in the third line of the first paragraph, correct?
Correct.
And then the second line of the second paragraph in red.
Correct.
But you would keep it for the 1, 2, 3 other times listed in the second paragraph?
Receive HVAC indoor air quality grant, yes, keep that.
Okay, and then the next where it says construction grants,
Construction grants, keep that.
okay? And
This
then,
in,
and then the last one where it says for grant applications with the state, I would imagine authorized to file. Okay, so then in the third paragraph, the 2 grants in red. 3 grants in red.
It's the third reference which says HVAC IAQ grant building.
Okay, so that's where they would be removed, but the other 2 grants would stay? Okay, got it.
It's all about grants, but they don't want it in there.
Yeah, because it's misleading because it's like a grants building committee as opposed to just a building committee that will be applying for grants. So what we just discussed, removing the grants in the areas where we just listed, takes it out of the title of the committee, so it's not a grant committee, it's an AC building committee who has the authority to apply for grants. So if we leave the grants where we just specified and take out the grants where specified, it should be acceptable. It shouldn't change anything.
Does it make sense to have a sentence clarifying this in case there's confusion for the minutes? I mean, it's a technicality, but.
Drew, do you think you need clarification for the minutes or do you think you're good?
I just said,
Removing grants from,
grants so that there are building committee who can apply for grants and other funding.
that's clear. Tom, do you have any comment on this?
I just don't want it to change the fact that the building committee is responsible for administration of the grants related to this and getting the grants, applying for the grants, and spending the funds according to the regulations of the grants. That's all. I don't care about the title.
Yeah, and I think it does that. If we remove it in the areas where we just listed, it doesn't have anything, it doesn't remove it for applying.
The
Right,
other
so-
thing, I do have another question.
To modify the language specific to what we just went through.
I'll make a motion to modify the language specific to
To the
prior
grants.
discussion as discussed.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, we're back to the main motion of the item.
I have a question.
No, that was that item. Okay, now we're gonna be talking about this actual, the appropriation for it, or do you have discussion about the actual building?
No, it's the building committee itself I got a question for. All we did was modify the language.
Yeah, that item was just to modify the language.
Right.
Okay, so
So-
that item passed.
So you're expanding the scope right now to include these other buildings, right? Or these other projects. Vestibules, I heard. And then I heard to replace. So then this building committee isn't just going to be about new air conditioning units. It's going to be replacement of old ones. Is that right?
No, this replacement that you're referencing is the North Stratfield roof. They're work in conjunction with the replacement or installation of new equipment on the roof.
Okay, you're breaking up again. Stay close to the microphone, please.
The microphone's in the ceiling, Tom.
Oh, well, it's not working. So,
So when you're referencing replace, that's in reference to the North Stratfield roof. And that's work is to be in conjunction with the new installation of HVAC equipment on that roof. That's why they were.
okay, that's clear. Thank you.
All right, so, item number 7, a motion, can I get a motion to hear or adopt a bond, resolution entitled a resolution approaching $6,286,480 for the cost of roof replacement projects at Holland Hill, North Stratfield, and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation for 20 years. And the backup is there. This will also require Board of Finance and RT approval. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded.
I'll open it up to the board.
So, is this within the original thought budget for this item?
So the Holland Hill roof, yes, it is within what we had originally had on our waterfall. The North Stratfield roof is an increased cost. However, it is a good number because we were able to work with the engineers to get this established as we move forwards with the air conditioning project. That's why we felt it was a good time to get the North Stratfield roof replaced. If you'll recall, the McKinley roof was scheduled for this year. We did push that off to make room for the North Stratfield. We did a swap on the waterfall to create the space for the North Stratfield roof. Being that we are putting new equipment, HVAC equipment on that roof next summer, we felt it prudent to do that before placing new equipment on the roof.
What's the numbers differential? How do the numbers work out between pushing out McKinley and doing this?
North Stratfields did come in at a higher rate. I don't have the McKinley price in front of me today, unfortunately. But it is higher than the McKinley roof was scheduled to be.
I want to know what that number is. I want to know what the differential is.
Mr. Morbido will pull up the waterfalls.
Because you got to offset on the waterfall, you got to offset it almost entirely, right? So what else are you going to move to offset it?
At this time, we had not talked about moving any other projects away from this.
We're trying to manage our debt level. If we're going to move something forward, we got to move something back.
Those discussions happened during the capital planning workshop where we get input from the Board of Ed and their.
I know.
And the
I know when they happen. Yeah.
Facilities Committee is also meeting to talk about their upcoming capital planning before we come back to our next capital workshop that we're gonna have. Our working group.
Is he waiting on the number?
He's looking it up.
We have a new website. I was having trouble finding this. I'm sorry about that.
Not a problem.
This is the 22. This is the old. The old one. And we had 1.56 was the McKinley project, and the North Stratfield is a $4.4 million investment project.
So you're moving $3 million in the waterfall from one year to the next?
Oh,
Is that right? The differential between the two?
Approximately $3 million. We were looking up the North Stratfield was originally in the waterfall.
for 2.1.
However, getting design and engineering completed, the price tag was increased to the 4.4.
So wait a minute. So the Holland Hill was increased as well to 4?
No, Holland Hill is still at 1.8. That's a partial roof replacement.
Yeah. So what did you just say though? Something went from 2.1 to 4 million. Was that an increase in scope or bad pricing?
The North Stratfield project, roof replacement project, went from 2.1 on the waterfall to an increase to 4.4 based on engineered and design drawings.
Okay. So wait a second. Time out then. So that was off by over $2 million in spec, not in estimate, rather, not because we increased scope.
Not because of increased scope, but because of design and original pricing was pre-COVID times, so that's why the increase is in there.
So we have two things going on. Number one, we have double the cost of the project that we thought we were going to do. Plus, you want to do an air conditioning at the same time. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yes.
And your offset. So I'm getting two different answer here, though, because I'm hearing that we're $2 million over on cost. And then I'm hearing that how much are we over? I also heard another $4 million over, or rather $3 million over, because you're pulling one school ahead, which I understand the thought process in doing the air conditioning. So it's not that doesn't bother me, right? But you're moving McKinley, which saves 1.6. You're pulling something forward that costs $3 million more. Does that mean I'm $5 million out here year over year? The waterfall versus what this is going to cost?
That's,
Balance that.
yeah, we've come.
Previous year, 6.6. Let's go back to.
This is not a little oops to be double off on that project. That's going to blow up the entire waterfall if you're double off on everything.
It has blown up the waterfall, as you'll see Thursday night at the Board of Finance. We will be presenting the new updated waterfall that does have increased numbers, increased budget for.
By how much?
Where? This is. Look here. Oh.
We're just working with the town today to finalize these numbers, so if you give me a moment, I will pull them. So the Board of Ed for 425 fiscal year ask will be
No.
So with this project on the waterfall for this year for the 24-25 fiscal year, it puts the Board of Education ask at 17.691 million.
And what was the original?
That's this. This is the, oh, I'm sorry, that's 2 years.
That's 2 years ago.
Hang on a second.
I'm a little bit, sorry, can I ask you a question? I'm a little bit lost right now with what math we're doing
Yeah.
here. Is there?
Yeah,
does it
Nancy,
make
there's two
sense?
things. Go
I was
ahead.
just, okay, I was just gonna say, does it make sense to have you go back and make sure we're voting? I just don't wanna vote on something.
I'm not prepared right now to vote on this until I now hear what happened on Thursday night, because I just got dumped in my lap that a project that we thought was going to cost $2 million is going to cost $4 million. And a project that we thought we were going to do was offset by $1.5 million. So I think we're $4 million over, or $5 million over for the year, at least from what I'm piecing together by this. And I have grave concerns over the overall ask. If in fact we were off by 100% on the estimate, my question is, what else are we off at on all the others? So I'm not prepared to vote on this today.
Mr. Flynn, Mike Testani, Superintendent. I just want to add the North Stratfield number is an accurate number. I think the assumption that the McKinley number would have remained at 1.5 is unrealistic.
Yeah, which means the entire waterfall is blown up.
But I think the entire waterfall town-wide is blown up. If anything that has been projected is more than a year old, based on any, especially HVAC projects. I mean, it's.
Yeah, but Mr. Testani, here's the problem. You might be right, but then you need to resize the whole thing because there's only so much bonding and so much debt we can do in any given year. So if the whole thing is off by that, then everything needs to be reprioritized and spread out further. That's my problem.
Understood, but we do have AC projects that were under a time crunch based on the grant money that we received from the state of Connecticut. So that has to be expended by December of 2024.
Yeah, it's got to be. So therefore, you can come back in 2 weeks once I have a better understanding of what's going on here and feel like I can vote on this, knowing what else has got to be pushed off.
So Tom, just to jump in here, these are contingent upon grant money that needs to be applied for soon. And as far as projects that they're gonna bring back to the future board, when they reshuffle their deck, is a matter for the next board to take up. But this item is the one that the board has decided to choose. And they're under a time crunch again because of the state having to stay for the funding.
Understood.
So
Understood, and I'm happy to have a special meeting and vote on it after Thursday night.
yeah, but Thursday night is just a discussion about that year's capital. There is no vote on Thursday night. It's just a presentation
understand.
of next year's capital projects. So for example, this is,
If I could explain, if I could just take a moment to explain the Oscar.
yeah, let me just finish, Sal, though. They came before us with this specific item. This is
Who's
the one,
us?
the Board of Selectmen.
I know, and I'm
Because
saying
the Board of
reason-
Ed is choosing this item as their priority. So that, I mean, yes, that will the entire capital plan is what we've been working on at the workshop. the Thursday meeting is just the perfunctory once a year workshop. It's really the work that gets done at the workshop meetings.
Okay, so it's
Things are moved around, but the bonding cap was put in place by my administration. So, and the education, administration is aware of that bonding cap. And that, those are the items that will come up on
Madam-
agendas.
So can I ask that?
Sure, go ahead.
Madam First Selectwoman, number one, if the meeting we're having on Thursday is perfunctory, let's not hold it. Because I don't want to waste time. Number two, the bonding cap, though your administration has done a nice job holding on to it, that bonding cap was put in place by the Board of Finance many years ago, when we worked very closely with Mr. Senafani, and we also worked with the heads of the, can't remember his name right now, Mr. Spindell, to do that, to make sure that the bonding cap was put in place. Therefore, we wouldn't go over the 10% marker on our debt service, so that we would help one of the triggers to maintain our bonding, our credit rating. So those are those two items. I can't vote on an item unless I understand the context of what it is. This is the first I'm hearing of it, and I'm hearing that it went up double the cost. Mr. Testani is absolutely right in what he said, where maybe everything's double the cost. If everything's double the cost based on the numbers that I've seen on the capital planning over the next 5 to 10 years, we've got bigger problems to concern ourselves with, because we don't have the bonding capacity to do all the projects that might need to be done. So there'll be a lot of tough decisions that need to be made. That's all I'm trying to get. I am more than happy to revisit this item within the next week, but I want to make sure that everybody knows that this is a slippery slope. I'm not voting on this today.
Go ahead, Nancy.
So just to clarify, and Tom, maybe this will help with that. Has the Board of Ed discussed the reality of this, that because it is like twice the amount and all of these things, and do they understand or have they talked about the implication of, like, if this is obviously a priority and we have to get these HVAC things done and these projects done, did they talk out loud and spend time?
Board has, the last two Board of Education meetings had on their agenda the waterfall plan, where we've reviewed with them. We've looked at the costs of projects. We've talked with them. They have the facilities committee on it now, so we're working with the facilities committee to update the waterfall pricing, to update the projects, and to update the 10-year facilities plan for the board district.
Right, so, but I guess I'm asking a more specific question, which is, if this is the priority, things are gonna, because it is twice the price, other things are gonna have to go away in the immediate. And are they prepared for that, rather than
That's
saying
right.
they're gonna come back and ask for more money? Are they prepared for the things that will have to go away as a result of having to do this work? Cause I know the money's not gonna change in the next 2 weeks, whether we vote today or next time, and we have to do it. So to me, and Tom, I would, out of respect to you, delay a vote if it would help you, but if we're just gonna get to the place where the reality is that it's twice as much and we still have to do this project, I'm more concerned with, like, the ramifications of what's next, because you can't keep affording if it's gonna all be twice the price, and so I guess that's.
And here's what my concern is. Nancy, I think you said that very well. Yep.
Angelos was gonna answer Nancy, and then.
Okay.
I'm simply gonna say that, all I can say is that I've presented to the board the projects. We've talked about the increasing costs. I can't speak on behalf of the board as they are not here today, but we are aware that there are high price tags on that waterfall that need to be addressed.
And they've discussed, and we've had in the capital workshops, talking about moving up design and those types of phases of all the projects, so that we can get a better understanding of what the long-term costs and investment will be or need to be.
In addition, the timeframe for certain filings that we were lucky enough to get the grant for the HVAC IAQ for 4 buildings. One of them was Ward, which we're not talking about, but the other 3 are what we call add air conditioning projects, which have a deadline. The North Stratfield roof, as you said, and you said you understood, needs to be done concurrently with that work. To file for that project with the Office of School Construction Grants and Review, we have to have funding in place. There are certain pieces that we need to have in place, and one of them is the funding for a project. To file the paperwork, we have to file it in the first 10 days of any month. Then we're barred for the rest of the month from making any applications. When we make a roof application, when we have history on this, it takes 22 working days for them to approve it. Pretty much at 22 to 25 working days. And that gets us out at Christmas. We're getting approval from the state to come up and meet with them to review our drawings. That takes a couple of more weeks before we can issue a bid.
Hey,
So any
hey,
other delay on that would, it would progressively take it 1 month further. I'm just giving, I'm not debating, I'm just giving the.
Hey, Sal, don't make your problem my problem on this, okay? Because obviously this has been known for a while, okay? Now, here's the thing, to Nancy's point, the board might have heard this, okay, but the first select woman, and she's right, she put together a hard cap on you get this much per year, you get that much per year, okay? What I heard was, okay, we know we're going over on this one, so we moved out McKinley. Okay, well, that still left, what was that, a $3 million hole? Right? So what else is going to get moved out to bridge that $3 million? Right? So I'm sorry. I don't know what to do with this because this is the first time hearing that, by the way, we're just going to go over the cap. I mean, and that's fine. I know the Board of Education has been working hard on this, and I know the numbers have come in high, and I've followed some of the stuff that's gone on. But it seems like what the decision was is we're just going to go over the cap by $3 million, at least. Right? And so I'm just pushing back on that, saying let me see the plan in its entirety, even if it's just the 2025 plan, as the first select woman said on Thursday. I'll vote on this quickly after that. But we've got to make sure we're all on the same page, because if we continue to have surprises like this, there's much needed things that are going to get squeezed out throughout the town.
Tom,
Yeah.
can I? Go ahead. So as I said, if you, as you have done with me, I will support delay for as long as it doesn't really push back by months and whatever, because this has to get done if there's the ability to have a special meeting or what have you. I guess the question is, what is delaying the vote if we know this has to get done? If the information doesn't change in terms of the money, except what you get to see is a bigger plan, is it something you'd be willing to see concurrent to voting? Because money is
like I said, I'm willing to vote on this after I see the entirety on Thursday night. I want to see what we're talking about. Right now, I don't have that information. And I'm happy to have a special meeting on this and vote on it right away. But this has been known for a while that we were double this at cost. I can't believe this came out. This didn't come out last week.
So are you moving to delay the vote, or are you not?
Well, I'm waiting to hear what you guys want to do, but I'd move to delay the vote, or you guys can vote. If you're both in favor of it, you can vote for it.
What, I'm trying again to honor.
No, I appreciate that, Nancy. I appreciate that.
So I guess the point is, for me, and I appreciate the need to understand holistically where this fits in, but I also understand that this has been an identified priority, and while I'm not like hugely delighted to kick the can, if you will, to the next team of people that sit here, to have to make that decision, but I do sort of trust the Board of Ed to have been thoughtful about the priorities, and the dollar amount's not gonna change. And so while I totally respect the need to see it in the context of a bigger picture and the bigger spend and the capital plan,
Let
both
me
will change in terms of the dollar, because the dollar amount's not gonna change, so.
Okay, so what the Board of Ed has decided is that this is a priority and that they're willing to go over their spending cap in 2025. And I don't want to mistake here, so you tell me if I go wrong, gentleman in the room representing the Education Administration, by $3 to $4 million in that year. Okay, So if that's the case,
Yeah, but
Then-
Tom, that's not the only alternative, because they could make a decision based on what the next body decides that they'll have to.
they just
for
they
the
just said
project.
they just said that was their priority, though. At least I'm putting the tea leaves together based on what's before us.
Well, I'm
Okay,
just gonna
was
say, I didn't say we were agreeing to go over by $3 million. I'm gonna say we can't use the higher or the accurate number on North Stratfield and use the old number on McKinley. So I'm gonna
Well,
say.
do you have the new number on McKinley?
No, because we pushed it out, so we didn't seek to get a new number, but I'm gonna
Okay,
guess
so but
the
but
number
what
is
I
not
had,
the same. So I think it's
Yeah,
an offset.
it's
What?
not an offset. It's not an offset, Mr.
They're both
Testani, because
I get it.
because
They're
of-
both high.
right.
They're
So
gonna be
something's
significantly higher.
so something's got to give. So
Right,
if
but
we
there's-
give,
But what are we
if-
gonna give when we had no anticipation of doing the roof? But we're not gonna put a brand new HVAC system on a roof that's over 23 years old.
so you know where
Makes
it's got to
no
come
sense.
from then? You're right, but you know where it's got to come from then? The town side.
Possibly, yeah.
Right. So if that's the case, where's it coming from on the town side? Because the cap is the cap. So where's it coming from on the town side if we're going to give the Board of Education $3 to $4 million more? What's not getting done on the town side?
Can I just tell you that the Board of Education on Tuesday night voted to approve capital projects and non-recurring projects at approximately a $5 million price tag for all the projects that they're planning to move forward this year. Those projects were the phase 2 through 5 air conditioning, so we can confirm and get better numbers with the design numbers for the rest of the phases for air conditioning. The partial Holland Hill roof replacement, the North Stratfield roof replacement, the 2 boiler replacements at Sherman, and then $1 million increase to the budget for the Ludlow High School bathrooms because of construction costs. So those average out 4.7, about $5 million for an ask out of the 12.5 that was allocated to the Board of Education side of the capital projects.
Plus this.
Well, no, this is in that number. This is in that number.
It can't be.
Oh, you're right, my calculator is, I apologize, I'm using a little own calculator to do this.
It can't be because this was $6 million alone.
So you got a calculator. We're gonna add them up. So when I said the 17 million was where we were landing at, there is some, unknown numbers in there. The air conditioning projects for phase 1, that is still being worked out by the building committee to get a final number as to what that project is gonna cost. We carried an escalated number in there just to show it, because we have it. We don't wanna blindside anyone with it. We want to be open with that. We also carried an increase with the vestibule security projects. As we have numbers, they're not confirmed numbers yet, but they are starting to look like they're gonna be higher than originally anticipated. And we wanted, anything we had, we wanted the public to be aware of, so we put those in there. That's where that 17 million came from. As I said, it's not a locked in number yet. What is a locked in number is, as soon as Sal finishes with the math, we will tell you what that is. That one, that one, that one, that one. That. So that puts the board's ask at 9.3 million for this year for capital projects.
And you're estimating it to be 17 though. It's
We're
just that you,
estimating 17 once, again, we add the AC projects and the vestibule projects in there. But again, those are not confirmed numbers yet. The building committee is still
understood.
working.
But what was the cap for the year? 12 million?
12.5,
So you think you're off by $5 million to the good?
for which, I'm sorry.
For overall.
If you improve all those other, you're basically saying your estimate is, hey, to do all these things, we need $17 million. We've got $12 million that's our cap,
Yeah.
right? We're $5 million over, right? The things we have hard numbers for, I'll make a statement here, we're over significantly on. The things we have soft numbers for, we don't know yet. But we know with our soft numbers, we're over by $5 million.
Approximately, that's where we think we are. As I said, the building.
Understood. So I'll give you the over under on that. let's say you're over by $3 million, not the 5 million, because you estimated high. Where's the other 3 million coming from for this year?
I would leave up to
That's-
the decide.
That's my problem. See, the board of ed, I understand why the board of ed made their decision. And I'm not, again, the board of ed is making the decision saying, these are the projects we need to get done. These are how much they're going to cost. We want to do these projects. We prioritize them in the grand scheme of things. Okay. But we didn't prioritize them in the grand scheme of the $12 million cap. We prioritize them in the grand scheme of all the projects we need. Right. And what I'm saying is that nobody looked at the cap and said, we can't go over the 12 million. So to get to the 12 million, what do you got to throw overboard?
Cannot speak on behalf of the board.
Right. See, and I understand that. I'm not trying to put you guys on the spot, nor am I upset at this. It's just exactly what's going on. We approved this 6.5 million or whatever it is, 6.2 million, right? That's half your spending is on these projects, and you're already estimating that what you want to do is going to cost 17 million. And like I said, let's say it's 15 million. Let's say you did estimate high. You're still well over the cap. And that money's got to come from somewhere because it's kind of a hard cap.
It does, so we would have to go back to the board and have that conversation with them. Perhaps
That's my point. Right.
would like to push off the security of the buildings or the heating of Roger Sherman School. I don't know where they would want to go with that.
Right. But I think that, and that's very valid. That's very valid. And that's kind of my point. But what you just said is extremely valid. And I'll go back Mr. Testani's point, and I don't think he's inaccurate. He's just pointing out that, hey, these capital plans are coming in costing a lot more than you guys thought they were going to. I get that happens, but that's going to have ramifications.
So, but Tom, given that the board,
Sure, go ahead.
given the Board of Ed has identified this as a priority and the schools have identified this as a priority, is something gonna change even if you sit through this meeting on Thursday? And I guess that's the fundamental question. If this is a priority and we have to go ahead and we have to meet deadlines, what in that information is going to change based on, because this is gonna be number one, what they have to then do as a ramification is sort of.
They need to know that because it doesn't sound like they know that. That 12 million was put in place as kind of a hard cap. They're going into it thinking they've already committed or they're willing to commit 9. And I believe, based on what Mr. Papa George said, they believe they have 17, right? When the cap was 12, right? They need to know that there's an over-under on there. I don't know. I can't speak for the board whether that changes their priorities or their thinking. I don't know. And I can't speak for the town and say, are they willing to give up $3 to $5 million worth of CapEx on their side, given everything going on? That's what I don't know. Everybody needs to be around the table and say, look, here's what's going on. I don't even know what's being presented to us on Thursday night relative to the plans.
If you are making a motion to delay because you need that in order to support, I will support that, but I'm also fair given that, I'm gonna make the assumption that the board, which is made up of people who are really thinking through these things, I think, over the years as they've come before us, I have faith that, they've talked about it and I'm hearing what you're saying and I don't think it's gonna change their priority, that's what I'm hearing you say, but maybe I'm not.
And it might not. I don't know.
The issue is the roof at North Stratfield was not in the plan. It's $4.5 million. There's the overage. And to take out the McKinley roof and assume that's going to be double than it was.
Right, but you need to solve the AC problem, so you can't do one without the other,
Correct.
and so that is a priority, so to me, given the history of everything that has come before us in the last 4 years, it's very hard for me to believe that the mandate is gonna change.
Correct.
But Mr. Testani, I think you just oversimplified something, right? it's not just that the North Stratfield thing moved forward, which makes sense. I get it. All right. It's the fact that it's double the cost that you thought it was going to be. So there's two things at play here. It's not the fact that, oh, it moved forward because we have to do it. It's no, it moved forward at double the price tag that we thought it was going to be.
I completely understand, but we're also assuming the rules that were set in place, as you referenced earlier, of the hard cap were set in place at a time when the numbers that were coming in were much lower. It may be an unrealistic number to have a hard cap in maybe 23, 24, 24, 25. We may need to loosen the cap and then scale back when things correct itself in the market.
Do you know what loosening the cap could do to the town?
I do. But I also know if we don't loosen the cap, that we have a roof project that has to get done in some way, shape, or form. It's gonna get done. If not, we're gonna have leaky roof, mold in schools, and that's gonna be a lot more costly down the road than maybe adding a little to the cap in 24, 25.
So I don't know what the town's willing to do on it. I haven't heard the town side. Okay, I'd make a motion to delay this till after the Thursday meeting so that we can make a decision based on knowing that the Board of Education knows all the ramifications and that the town has the opportunity to address the cap.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion on this motion?
Yeah, I'm gonna say for the record that I am prepared to vote today. I would support it based on historical information on what you've presented, understanding in the context of what Mr. Flynn is asking for, and I think it's right and fair to get that information, but I'm also supporting this motion because I think Mr. Flynn is not asking for something unreasonable. So I support it with those caveats.
One last thing.
Sure.
Just so you're aware, the RTM was gonna take this project on tonight as part of their, and the Board of Finance was going to hold a special meeting prior to the Capital Summit meeting to be able to approve this, so we'll have to put this on.
So is there a reason that the RTM can't approve it
Pending Board of Selectmen.
pending Board of Selectmen approval?
Their vote isn't tonight, so we will still present them tonight.
Okay, committee is tonight. Okay, so given that information, it still gives us time, and I just want to I support the opportunity for Mr. Flynn to get some more of his own, for his own edification, so.
Thank you, Nancy.
I don't have anything else to say.
Well, I want to say that we have discussed at length during the capital workshops, and both sides, both the town and the Board of Ed side are aware of our cap. Actually, the cap that I put in place was lower than the one that the Board of Finance put in place. With the caveat that there could be adjustments year to year depending on the needs. So for example, one year we may all go up a little bit more, but then the next year we will pull back a little. Keep under the total amount. And listen, I understand this is a priority project. I know the board prioritizes this. I don't think they're gonna change their priority. There were motions put in place, as you mentioned, Angeles, that the RTM was taking it up on their committee. Board of Finance was having a special meeting to accommodate this request because of the priority of the Board of Ed for it. So I'm not inclined to change it because I don't think this item will change. I think it is a priority for the Board of Ed. They've been talking about it for a year. They're not gonna all of a sudden say they don't wanna do it. So I don't think it's gonna make a difference. The next Board of Selectmen meeting is on 11/13, and that will be our final meeting. So I'm not inclined to postpone the vote. I don't think anything's gonna change. Go ahead, Nancy.
In terms of the 13th, does that delay your process? Would we have to have a special meeting in order for things not to get pushed back with the timelines, Sal, that you had outlined?
The filing has to be completed with the state in the first 10 days of the month, so if the
So we'd have to have a
financing is
special
done-
meeting.
But all three boards would then have to, see, that's the problem, it's not just us.
Yeah, but
Then Board of Finance and then the RTM, and they don't meet.
but they can vote contingent on Board of Selectmen support, so.
Well, it would be, RTM would be voting on contingent on both.
The end of the month.
Both parts if the Board of Finance takes the same position. So I
So
actually,
this
So
being
it's not-
kicked off has to require, then would require the Board of Finance to have a special meeting and then. For the board.
Sal tried to mention earlier, that's the key to all this. The timing of it's crucial simply because we only have July and part of August to get the job done. So if we don't get everybody lined up, bids out, all that stuff done, we miss an entire year.
Right, but so just spell this out, so November 13th is Board of Selectmen, so we'd obviously have to have a special, RTM can vote on this
That's
contingent
if
on.
we could have one. Based on people's schedules.
I mean,
I know it's pretty.
I know, but I'd like to think that between now and November 9th, we could find, 10 minutes.
Earlier.
well, it would be, I
Need
believe
it.
that it would be before, you would wanna do it before. the RTM.
Okay, but
When does the
when
RTM,
is the RTM voting meeting?
usually the last Monday of the month?
Last Monday of the month,
That's the 23rd.
be the 30th.
Here it says the 23rd in my calendar.
Sorry, it's a week from today.
And so it would have to be a special meeting Friday or Monday morning. I mean, again, I support, for the 10 minutes of a phone call, I feel, or, a WebEx call. That information would make you more comfortable. But it would
Me?
have to be a date certain, it couldn't be to the next Board of Selectmen meeting.
I can do it to date certain. I can do it next Board of Selectmen meeting. I can do it a week from today.
Well, I wanna make sure we all understand that what you just said, what you just said
It's
is
gotta be helpful for them or it doesn't help.
for help, it puts it off for a
So
year,
agreed. So when can it be?
Friday or Monday.
I can do it Friday.
I can.
Now, how is the Board of Finance gonna, I don't see how they're gonna swing that, because then the problem would be the Board of Finance won't have time because the RTM is meeting on the 23rd, which is Monday. So they would have to call an emergency meeting on Friday. Do you see what I'm saying? Before the RTM would be able to pick it up on the 23rd. And I don't know if they'd be able to do that.
I don't get that math, because if we're doing it Friday after the Thursday meeting, then
But they have to meet. They have to meet. When was their special meeting?
For a Thursday prior to their regular meeting.
So they were gonna do prior to the meeting. Thursday, right. So I mean, honestly, it's kind of a house of cards here and sure, if we can meet on Friday, it's all well and good, but that doesn't mean the problem's solved. Because I'm not sure that the Board of Finance is gonna be able to take time off in the middle of the day to have a meeting when they already set up to have the meeting on Thursday before their meeting.
except for they
Just
could
a-
also vote contingent on the Board of Selectmen also.
Yeah, they can't vote without us.
But, well, they could vote the same way the RTM could vote.
The RTM can't vote without this being sent to them by us. They cannot
So they
take the item. If it does not come out of this board, nobody gets it.
Given this, unless I'm misunderstanding now, it doesn't seem like timeline wise we can swing it without pushing this a whole year, which does not,
It's gonna really screw the schedule up.
It's the
are
money.
you hearing, is that making sense to you otherwise?
Who, me?
Well, yeah, I mean, right, if you.
Look, I'm not gonna be, if you guys wanna vote it through, vote it through.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm just saying, I'm not gonna be pressured to vote because this was dumped on me and it causes a timing problem. All right? That's not my problem. I'm
No,
being asked to I know you're not, and I'm just saying, yeah, I understand if you guys feel you want to vote for this. I'm the fly in the ointment on this, but literally, I don't know if everybody realizes what they're voting on here. And I'd be surprised if the Board of Finance just signs off on this without knowing how the town is going to cover it, if that's in fact what's going to happen.
The question I was asking was, given our inability, and I hear you saying you won't be, pushed. I was asking if it did change anything in terms of voting for it and supporting it, because if that's the case, if it does push things, I'm not gonna vote to delay our.
Understood. Yeah, Nancy, I appreciate I appreciate the position you're taking, and I appreciate you're trying to support my request for more information. I also understand if you want to vote for it because you think it's not going to change anyway. I get it. I'm totally fine, and I appreciate it.
So we still have this motion on the table, but what I would say as part of this discussion, given what Mr. Flynn has asked for, I don't think it's unreasonable by any stretch. It would be great to have that sort of report back or information just for edification that the Board of Ed has talked about this, that they understand the implications. I mean, I hear you that you're saying it. It's just, it'd be great if, for instance, if someone from the Board of Ed were here, but they're not, so.
Well, I think they do, right? So we've had these discussions repeatedly during the workshop. So for example, the Board of Finance could vote potentially to move their special meeting to the end of their after the capital plan presentation, then to have the meeting. But just to be 100% clear, the Board of Ed has their list of priorities. The town has their list of priorities. We put together a capital plan for the upcoming year and then the 5-year. Nothing gets put on the agenda without the first select person making the decision to put it on. So regardless of the Board of Ed saying, yes, we want to blow through our cap by $5 million, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to put an item on the agenda after this that's going to blow through the cap. This is their priority today. They're well aware of what the cap is. This is what they've said they want. They have talked about it extensively over the past year during these workshops. I believe them, and believe they wouldn't come before us not knowing that this is gonna have ramifications to the rest of their plan. And I even asked that of Jen I think it was Monday, last Monday during the workshop. And Jen did say that the facilities committee was gonna be, they were working and they were reshuffling the deck, not just due to this issue, but also because of the whole redistricting got tabled. And they're aware now that they have to kind of look at globally their space. What are they doing with Dwight? What are they doing with the freestanding potentially ECC? So there's all these like sort of things that they still have to grapple and decide how they want to move forward. And I'm assuming their deck chairs are going to change. But I know for a fact that this has been a priority. And the North Stratfield piece did kind of come out of left field because they realized that the roof was really old and they weren't going to put a new AC on an old roof. And they made that decision. They said, instead of scrapping the whole thing and saying, you know what, we're not going to do it at all. We're going to, put it to the back and put something else that's more important. They didn't. They said this is what they want. And so, I don't like to micromanage the school board. These are their decisions. I can say yes or no, putting it on the agenda. I said yes because this is their priority. And I know they're under a crunch to get that state funding, because I know it's not like just walk up there and boom, they give you the state funding. It's a whole process. It takes a ton of time and paperwork. So because everyone's scheduled these special meetings and done all this stuff in the time crunch, I personally would like to vote for it. Listen, if the Board of Finance wants to have a different perspective, if they want to say, if they want to go up and down the Board of Ed and scrutinize them and have long discussions about it, that's their purview. They have every right to do so, as does the RTM. But as it is before us right now, I don't want to screw up anyone else's time schedules and special meetings. I don't think that's right or fair. And so I'm not inclined to vote for the amendment or whatever the motion to postpone.
I'm gonna stand, I mean, I know the motion's before us, but I'm gonna stand amended in my support for it because there's too many, like if the Board of Ed, if Board of Finance does or doesn't, I don't
we run the risk of delaying this for the year, and I do think that we have that check and balance of the Board of Finance, which this is in their purview, and so for that reason, I'm sort of willing to pass it from our body to theirs.
So we do have a motion now, what was the motion?
To delay to a date.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, so we need to vote on that motion and go back to the main motion. So we have a
And by the way,
motion and a
yeah, go ahead.
second to delay the vote. All in favor of the motion to delay the vote?
Aye.
Against? Aye. All right, motion fails 2-1. We're back
And-
to the main
And
motion,
minute,
item 7.
hey, Bert,
Yeah.
or Madam First Selectwoman.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just a point of clarification on something that you had actually said. No, I think you're absolutely right. You don't micromanage the Board of Education, and you shouldn't. And I agree with that. And maybe this is their priority. What's unclear to me is to whether they realize that $12 million was supposed to be a hard cap. Because what's been presented here today is that they thought they might be spending up to $17 million in 2025, not $12 million. And if I'm on the Board of Ed, when I'm putting together these projects, I'd like to know what that cap is, because maybe that decision is a little different. Or at least maybe you start the discussions of how you're going to bridge the 17 to the 12. And then there's, of course, the broader discussion, which Mr. Testani is absolutely right about, which is if these costs are that far off moving forward, we've got significant problems on what projects get done in this town and what don't, just because of our bonding capacity and our ability to keep our credit rating. That's all. So thank you.
No, I understand, Tom. I understand the concern. So we are back to the main motion. We have a motion and a second on item number 7. If there's no further discussion from the board, is there any discussion from the public? Hearing none. Back to the board. All in favor? Aye. Motion, Tom?
Opposed.
Motion carries 2-1. Thank you, gentlemen. Our next item is item number 8. This is to hear, can I get a motion to hear, consider, and act upon compensation for town, thank you, town department heads. So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So this is item number 8. This is what we do use yearly. We were a little delayed only because we needed to kind of finish up with our collective bargaining units first. So we would kind of have those in line with the contract, settled contracts. So we have our HR director here, Kathleen Simpson, who's going to go through a quick presentation on this item.
Good evening. This is to be very quick. We looked at the comparison with the contracts that went through for the non-police and fire unions. The increase was at 2.5%. Cost of living increase, and for the police and fire, and we just got through the fire contract at 2.75. So we looked at the department heads, so the employees that are non-bargaining units, and we determined that that would be proper to increase their salaries accordingly.
So are you got? Yeah, go ahead.
No, thanks. You wanna go first? Who wants to go first?
I'll go. Can you, just a couple of questions. When do these raises go into effect? When do these go into effect? And July 21st, 2023. And are they reflected in the year end, the 24 budget, or is this?
I believe budget director's online.
I
Frank.
can answer that. Could everybody hear me?
Yeah, hi Frank.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so those are reflected not in the detailed personnel budgets of each department. We hold the increases for department heads and contingency, so that's where the money is. And the money is budgeted for these increases.
And so these are all non-bargaining units, meaning they're all sort of, are they all at the, which ones are at the pleasure of the first selectwoman versus sort of like
So you
contracted?
see these where it says Board of Selectmen approval.
Oh, okay.
And then the other one says
I got it.
FSW only.
Okay. And then a couple of other questions. The Director of Public Works is still interim.
Correct.
So how does that, is he a town officer as interim? And then as such, would that affect? Or no, is he still?
I'm sorry, that he's still an interim director.
So it doesn't mean that he's considered, it's like, what's the, cause he has certain rights and sort of benefits, I guess, or under the charters, there's certain things if he's considered a town officer, so I'm just confused how that,
Correct.
so he's not considered a town officer.
He's considered, I'm not getting into the legalese of the charter, but he'd be considered in the pool of the same bargaining unit department heads in terms of increases. I believe this happened last year too with that interim position. When we wanted to move it accordingly for consistency.
Okay, so he is sort of in that regard considered a town officer.
In that regard, yes.
And then how does severance work in the case, like, you know, in 3 weeks, let's say there's an election and let's say since these are at the pleasure of the first selectwoman, if there's a change in administration, what does it look like if there's a change in some of those positions?
That's a good question. So what we'd have to do is go back, obviously, if there's whatever rights people have under the charter and if positions need to be filled from there. Have to go back out to looking at qualifications, and then you can look at salaries. And you don't necessarily have to go back to the salary of the previous person that held that and with the increase. I would dare say though, you'd wanna keep it at a level in that pool because of getting the skill set, the qualifications. You wanna keep it competitive.
But how does severance itself work?
Severance, I'm sorry, someone leaves?
Like both, that question was you answered a good question anyway.
If someone's leaving, my understanding again, I wasn't prepared for that, but I believe there is some rights under certain positions for ability to go before the board, selectmen, with respect to cause, if you will, for removing a position. And if chances are people don't submit resignations, and again, I having gone through it here.
What I think she means is that after an election, new administration, should there be one, has the ability to remove certain department heads and internal
They
office
serve at
staff,
the pleasure of the first selectman.
and even the department heads, within 60 days of an election.
Okay.
After 60 days, so I think what Nancy's asking is would there be severance? I don't.
Or what's the process?
I mean, I think the department heads, I don't really know.
Well, if we go in again, and that's probably, it's a good question, I just want to be prepared for. And but my understanding is certain positions have the ability to, for lack of a better word, have cause can go before and indicate why they should not or should be removed or not. And with respect to what that looks like in terms of
Baldwin, I think, really is
Yeah, I
more
think
the
that'd
person
be
to
better.
answer this question. I don't remember it ever coming up in
probably have, but I think,
but I think it has a lot to do with the charter, and that's really more Baldwin's purview than it is the discussion on raises for
Right.
people.
and and any kind of agreement you plan to make with the employer is something that would be.
And given, a large charge has been, job descriptions of all of that, given a nice increase here, is there any headway on the job descriptions and metrics and whatnot, so that especially if like Board of Selectmen has to approve certain things, I think just looking for metrics.
With respect to the bargaining, that's been a priority because Public Works, Thea, and PETA. We have an agreement with the unions to be looking at job class studies, and that has been going on as a priority. We still also have work to do with department heads in terms of looking at comparisons as well, and job classification. So we have have, as people have left, our employees have left certain positions, we have looked at those job descriptions and revised those. And to make sure they're up to date, because some of them are pretty old, as I'm sure.
And and what is there a reason to given that this is discretionary and there is an election in 3 weeks, is there a reason not to wait until?
This is done every year, usually in September.
No, and I'm just curious if now at this
I
point,
think it's to be in line because all the bargaining units got their raises and department heads have been waiting. And it's in line with what all the other unions got. And then the first responders are in line with theirs. And the regular department heads are in line. And we have discussed this in the past that we think that we need to do what we have done the research on our department heads. A lot of our department heads are underpaid based on their skill set and the work that they do. This is a simple adjustment, wage adjustment, just like all the other bargaining units. I wouldn't imagine that a new administration, should one come in, would change that in any way. I would imagine that they would do that. You take the research, if we're not here, take the research we did about wanting to up some of because municipal employees typically used to get paid less because they got pensions and all this other stuff. And pensions have been taken away from the majority of our town employees, minus our first responders. And, we have some high qualified directors who could make a lot more in the private sector than they're making in our town. So those are questions that can happen. These are just a simple, straight up, just like the other unions, to give them their increase.
and I don't in theory have a problem with that. I think that given that they're going to impact a budget that I'm not part of, and whether it's you at the head of that administration or somebody else, I would want, out of respect for that makeup of that administration, to have the ability to do this. I'm not comfortable given that I will be, since there is some discretionary spending here and raises and increases, and I'm not challenging the justification for it. I just think that given, with 3 weeks until a
The
new.
money is in the contingency.
And I appreciate that. I'm saying that I think I almost would leave it to
So the ones that the Board of Selectmen would have to wait, and I don't believe it is July. I think these are immediately, because we have the money in the.
No, I meant that, right, but
They go into effect.
Effective the fiscal year.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the money has been held and already budgeted for. So essentially, I understand your position, but again, essentially the people that I can I will be able to do immediately, while these others will not have that same benefit, which I don't think is fair to them, regardless of who gets elected. They perform a job. This is in line with all the other unions. This is a simple COLA, cost of living adjustment.
Madam First Selectwoman, can I just add to what you're
Sure.
saying?
Go ahead, Frank.
So to your point, the money, what you guys are voting on right now, the money's already budgeted for, and it would have been voted for in out of the last budget process. So we're only talking about impacting FY24. As to the raises and the amounts and leaving up to another board, that's up to everybody's decision. I will say that, the rates that we pay our department heads are intrinsically based on some kind of market value. And so I just look at these as COLAs, cost of living increases, just to keep salaries up with with the pace of inflation. So I don't think that, waiting for the next board would have any material impact on the numbers, and I would work with whoever the administration is for the FY25 if anything needs to be updated.
So you're just kind of then, Frank, giving me justification in the sense of waiting the 3 or 4 weeks won't matter, because I'm not arguing that what you're saying or what Brenda is saying in terms of the value and cost of living and all of that. I just think with a new makeup, whatever it is, I would leave it to them to have their own sort of plan moving forward, again, whether it's you or someone else. So.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, a couple things. I kind of have the opposite view of Nancy, I believe on this one, and that I think I'm going to say it two different ways. Number one, I think a raise for a department head should in measure be based on their performance. And the current board, and more so the current administration, would be the best arbiter of their performance to date, as opposed to somebody coming in new and fresh that wouldn't have that background. That being said, what's always bothered me, and this is not in just this one, is that we tend to look at our department heads much like we do union members and the like, and we do the COLA adjustments and that, and they're really not. And annually, I always would like to see more of a differentiation between department heads that have gone out of their way and done a great job versus department heads that have, towed the line, versus in if we've ever had a department head that the administration's view isn't getting the job done, which, by the way, did happen in the past prior to this administration. So it's not the amounts here. I think they are market rates. I absolutely remember Mrs. Kupchak and HR going through and doing the market study, I think, like Frank had indicated. So I'm fine with the rates. I'm fine with the accounting for this and the fact that it's in contingency. I'm fine with our board voting on it. It's just in the future, I would hope that, as opposed to looking at these like we do union positions and say, hey, they should get that as a COLA, we should really look and differentiate it based on performance. And I know that's been done in the past. It's just in this instance, it's basically the same amount for everybody.
Yeah, but and that's sort of, you're just reiterating my point, because with the lack of job metrics and not, our board does have some sense of that, Tom, but it really, a lot of it falls under the day-to-day operations of the select person. And so given a lack of job metrics or performance review metrics that we are subject to, I feel like in theory and in like ideally what you're saying is true, but it's just not the practical reality. And again, I'm not arguing that people shouldn't get raises and they deserve them. I'm just saying that there may be a world in which there is a bigger plan, and waiting a month, 6 weeks, giving HR time to flesh out some of those job metrics is not gonna change anything. So that is all.
Thank you.
I would just say
Yeah.
the metrics, I think that's more along the lines of, listen, we now have their job descriptions, we've hired a lot of new department heads, we've hired a lot of new people. That's more, I think, along the lines of when we just our research into modifying the pay schedules of some of our department heads based on their workload and their expertise. This is just simple COLA adjustment, and we probably, again, we should have done this back in August or September, it just didn't. At any rate.
And you know what, honestly, I might have had an easier time then. It's just, it just feels not practical in this moment, but sounds like, again, I don't in theory have an issue with people making more money and getting the job they, given, rates of what's competitive, et cetera. But I don't really have anything more to say.
Is there any comment from the public on this item? Back to the board. If there's not any additional comment on from the board, can I call for a vote? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain rather than vote no.
Okay, and so that's 2 in favor, approve, 1 abstention. Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Our next item is item number 9, is a presentation from Mr. Bremer regarding Penfield. Mr. Bremer.
Good evening, all. As I did 2 weeks ago, I will try to make this brief and direct to the point kind of thing. I was down at Penfield this morning to give you the latest minute update, There is a fence up. There is a barrier within the fence so that you can't see through the fence, and it should be all done today. Why did we put a fence up? We did it because the next phase is about to begin, which is what I've been talking about for a while, which is the hotspot remediation will begin in the next few days. It should take a few weeks. Why are we doing that first? And we're doing that because we wanted to make the environment for the workers that are gonna be coming on as safe as we can so that they don't have to wear hazmat suits and that sort of thing. So we expect the remediation of the hotspots to begin in the next few days. That will take a few weeks to accomplish. And once that's all accomplished, then the construction, what you all know about in terms of the remediation under the real remediation of the building as well as the renovation of the foundation will then begin. Where are we with the bids? Where we are with the bids is we should have numbers by the end of this week from our construction manager, the main contractor, that's Bismarck Construction, and they're also doing the $100 million high school in Bridgeport. They should have numbers for us at the end of this week, which will then open up negotiations between the town and that contractor in terms of his overall not to exceed contract, which we will do negotiations with, and I expect to have that completed next week so that I probably will be before you, the next time I'm before you will probably be his contract, the not to exceed contract as well. So you will have a chance to take a look at that as well. When do we expect to be done with the hotspots? I expect to be done with the hotspots right around Thanksgiving and be all done. I'm really hoping that what I consider the main renovation and construction to begin right around December 1st. So in earnest, there'll be an army down there at December 1st. But as I said before, we've got a lot of stuff going on to get the site ready for the army to show up. And that's happening as we speak. As you may or may not know, we have already bound construction insurance, so that's in place. But as I said earlier, we don't have final numbers yet. I don't have budget numbers, which is what I know everyone is interested in. But we don't have them, but I certainly hope to have them in the next week or so. I just want to reiterate, for my own edification, if for no one else's, in front of all the boards, I get the looks in the eyes about how much money is it all gonna cost. And I wanna just remind everyone what I've been saying since day one, which is, we're talking estimates, we're talking, this is what we think it's gonna cost. But as I've learned from the 40 sites that we've been cleaning up over the town, you can't predict everything based on what you see. You have to start digging, and you don't know what you're gonna find until you dig. So I don't really have a sense today about, I have a sense, but I can't sit and tell you definitively exactly how much dirt is under everywhere, and we're not gonna find anything more than we ever thought. I can tell you unequivocally that we may in fact find things that we didn't expect, because that's been my experience. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And so in that sense, although we are all gonna take some comfort in the numbers that we will all have in the near term, I only wanna reiterate that we can take some comfort from it, but till we really start digging and really get our feet wet into what we have, I don't take that much comfort in it at all. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for that. 2 questions. The town bodies moved this through based on a $10 million spend.
I think it was more than that, but that's fine.
11 was,
I think it's 11.5, 11.6, something.
okay, so based on that, I mean, it feels very nebulous to say, I don't know what it is. Is there any, cause that's what
Yeah.
The bids have come back in, but the negotiations are still ongoing with the subcontractors. I'll give you a quick example. All right, so the electrical subcontractors probably bid about 1.3 million. That may not be the real number because we have to sit and negotiate the scope of work. We have to make sure that in fact, what we understand we want him to do is in fact what he understands we want him to do. And sometimes, oh, I didn't think of that, or oh, yeah, I've got that covered, I figured it all out. And that's when, once we have that sense of where the scope is, then we negotiate with that subcontractor and say, well, we can't spend that money, we want you to lower your costs and that sort of thing. So those conversations are happening as I speak.
Yeah.
And so I don't wanna say any numbers until those negotiations are all done, for obvious reasons.
And I appreciate that. I just guess in the context of the conversation that we were having earlier about Board of Ed and town spending and all of this, I just think, and again, it won't be me sitting here having to navigate
I understand.
discussion, but you know, the next body is gonna be inheriting potentially a big albatross, and I just think sooner rather than later, it would be great for people to understand. This was always I was not quiet about my hesitancy or my not supporting it in a way because the number was so nebulous, which then leads to my next comment, which may be a question. Can you talk about there was concern articulated about the race that studied the flood and erosion study and the timing of it and how it didn't consider things. Can you address those comments?
Yeah, that's fine. I'd be happy to. And there was a number of questions that I got from the Board of Finance about the race engineering study and the timing of it and all that kind of stuff. And what I had forgotten when I was before then, but when I went back to the office and looked at documents, what I realized was right after everything was approved and the $100,000 was awarded to do a resiliency study. And we said in the meeting that first thing we turned to race for was we needed to have an analysis done with the new elevation. And that analysis at Scour was immediately started by race. That had to be done first. Race doesn't have 500 people working for it, they're a relatively small shop. That had to be done first. And that was done, that was turned over to all our engineers on the Penfield to start the estimates and the analysis and for Penfield. And it was after that we began the resiliency study. So the sense of like, well, we haven't done the resiliency study fast enough and stuff, I would disagree with. And secondly, the issue I kept bringing up with the Board of Finance, and I just want to reiterate it for here, is once the race study is done, that's just step one of a pretty lengthy process. We have to go before the regulatory agencies. We have to ask, are any of the concepts that have been generated by that study something that would be permittable by FEMA or DEEP? That is gonna take, I'm guessing, months to set up those meetings, meet with those people and see what they're inclined to permit. And only after that, assuming that some of them will be permitted, which I'd like to assume, one or two will be permitted. Only after that, are we then gonna start thinking about what are the costs? What's the estimates? How much can we build? What do we have to get in terms of easements from neighbors? That sort of thing. So this is a very lengthy project in order to address the resiliency. So the idea of, well, we're gonna have a quick study and then we're gonna know what to do right away was never contemplated, at least by me, or I dare say by the town. It's a lengthy process and we're more than willing to begin it, and we have begun it. And I'm looking forward to the results. So that's my quick answer to that.
Thank you.
And just to follow up on that, Becky and Ellen and have been involved in those meetings. They sit regularly, John Marsilio, Eli, and Mr. Bremer, and have been in meetings with Race around the table. And Race told them it takes time for this. It's not, that's just what it is, and he's right. Regardless of what the outcome of those study is, it's not like you can flip a switch and do these things. This is highly regulated areas. And so it's not gonna happen all at once. The study they said will be done in sometime in December. We're not even gonna start doing work until about then. But again, it's not like we can say, oh, we can plug in some flood and erosion into this project because you've got DEEP, you got FEMA, you got all kinds of agencies that would wanna look at things, and then who knows what that stuff would cost and how that impacts our capital plan too. So, you know, it's a complicated issue, and I know that, you know, people do care about it, and I care about it too. But it's not easy. And as far as the figures go with Penfield, I mean, we always knew from the very beginning that we didn't know how deep that soil went down. We just don't really know. We're going off invoices that people put in. And, you know, some of these people are facing some serious felony charges, so we're hoping that that's a right number, but again, you're not gonna go down and dig 6 feet and then, oh, you know, there's 2 more feet of it, say, we're not cleaning it up. We're not gonna have that kind of option. We knew all along that we're not gonna have those kinds of options. So we just have to do what we have to do and clean it up and put it in the past. Tom, do you have any questions for Mr. Bremer?
No, I'm good on this. I understand where we stand right now. It's quite frankly, it's just too early in the project and there's too many unknowns right now relative to the remediation. So I think the next 6 weeks or so are going to tell the tale, is what I'm hearing.
I think I agree with that, 6 weeks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is, can I get a motion to consider an act upon tax refund as recommended by the tax collector in the amount of $51,272.90.
So moved. Seconded.
Any discussion on this item? Any discussion from the public? Back to the board, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I just want to quickly highlight that, you know, I put in my newsletter regarding the Sister City event. I know there's been so much going on in our community, but this has been planned for almost a year now. And we're trying to bolster it. Right now, it seems like everybody's so caught up in so many, you know, various things, and I hope that our community will come together to support it. I did put it in the newsletter, posted it again on my First Select Woman page. It's gonna be a really lovely event, and
What is it?
it's on October 27th, and it's on the town's website. The link, how to buy a ticket. There's gonna be a lot of auction items. There's gonna be Ukrainian dancers, Ukrainian singers. I think it's gonna be a really fun townwide community event. I'd love for you all to spread the word because I want it to be successful. You know, we partnered with this town, and I'm hoping that we can at least do something to be helpful.
And I would echo in the space of people feeling helpless, when you can go do something that's tangible for a community desperately in need, it's a great way to engage. And I'm traveling for work, but I will certainly pass it along.
You can donate too.
And you can donate, which I will commit to doing publicly.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Pass it on.
As you may have known, we have a new website. It launched it with, I can't believe how much work this website took. Between our IT director, Mary Mao, and my chief of staff, we really took a leadership role on this, put a ton of time into it. And Mark Barnhart, and so it's over, it's been moved over, it looks new to everybody. And there's some things that are gonna take some time to just keep pushing over because not everything transferred seamlessly, as with any kind of new technology, but we are hoping to get everything up and running, but I hope people do like it because it is gonna be you know, it has language translation, compliance, and it's a more inclusive website, so anybody has any issues finding things, please reach out to us and we'll make sure that we help you find it or make sure it's uploaded.
And I just wanna say thank you to the team that worked on this. So to be critical, I'm sorry out of the gate. But just to reiterate, and I hear what you're saying, that it's gonna take time, but apparently, and I'm responding to an email that we all got.
Yep.
Historical documents older than 2 years, agendas, minutes, packets for boards, and certain links. So.
Right, so it just went up on Tuesday.
Okay, interesting.
And so it does take, with any new, you have a really old system and then you have a really new system, it does take time. So my public advice to anybody is that if there's specific things they need, please just reach out to the office and we will assist with getting that uploaded, because we are trying to make sure everything gets changed over, but it does take some time. And then the new EV vehicles, you can see them outside. We're getting some more. We're working on we wanna put a nicer like logo on them, but we haven't kind of decided that yet. So we're getting temporary, just something with the seal, so someone's not rolling up on a property without realizing it's an official town vehicle. And we're getting a few more, we're gonna get some more of them. They were actually hard to get. They were a lot harder than we realized. But we're gonna be getting another set of them and then deciding how they're gonna be apportioned out to employees. But we're excited to have them, and I think it's gonna be really good it's gonna save our town significant money on gas and maintenance, and it sends a message of the town takes it seriously. Okay, thank you. If there's no further information or comments, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Have a good night.